Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Planet of the Apes Retrospective. I am Bright Eyes Trasnell, and I'm joined by
I'm the Monkey Man, Kirkland Patzer.
Stinking paws, Taylor Field.
Stinking Paws. You're goddamn right. I'm very excited because this is a retro that has like people, if they're newer, probably like obviously X-Men mentioned a bunch. I'm trying to think of like obviously Tarantino was one. Like there's a couple I feel like we mentioned a lot of, but this is one that's been in the works, but we've never ever planned it because obviously we were in the era. God, when did Dawn come out? Was that 2014 or 2015? Was Dawn? Someone look that up and see if that was
That's
pre-podcast.
the first one, right?
No, that's
No,
Rise is
second.
the first one.
Oh, right.
I think Dawn is maybe 2014. So maybe it was just
2014,
before.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and which makes sense because I was going to see the 2017 one, the War for the Planet of the Apes, but that's when Gwen was born. I literally had tickets to join. Was it you and Briggs, Taylor, that did the whole?
Yeah, it was the whole
Yeah.
marathon.
Yeah, the whole shebang there. So I had tickets to that, and then Gwen was born. So I think that's why we didn't do a retro because it was just a time where it's like, okay, I'm busy, summer, lots of stuff going on. So it's one of those retros that like, okay, we kept putting it off and waiting for, when's this going to happen? And luckily now this is as usual for patrons. This is why you subscribe to Patreon because you begin this likely at the earliest we're in September. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, 8 months early. And it could be even earlier depending on the movie and the strike. So as of right now, the next movie, God, I think it's called Conquest. Someone get that for me. Someone search Planet of the Apes
The next
2024. Yeah, is it Conquest for Planet of the Apes or what is
I thought it was
think
Escape.
I think it is. No,
No.
I think it is Conquest.
Is it Conquest?
Yeah, because it's
Escape
after
is
war, right?
War Conquest. Because Escape is one of the original ones, Kirkland. I think that's the third one.
Oh, okay.
Same as Conquest. That's one of the original ones too.
Is there a Conquest for Planet of the Apes?
Yeah,
Then it can't.
1972.
The new one can't be Conquest. I don't think they're doing another one. Just write Planet of the Apes 2024, and it'll come up. But either way, as Taylor finds that, if it's happening in May, great. If not, the strikes might happen. So at the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, 2024.
All right, they're running out of titles. Anyway, so yes, as of right now, it's coming out May 2024. So at any point, even then, it might get delayed. Doesn't matter. It's coming out next year. It's been filmed, or whatever, 2025. It's coming out. They filmed it. They got a good cast, everything. A director that's like, all right, so we'll see how it goes. But I think there's been like a general sense of like all of us kind of enjoy Planet of the Apes somewhat one way or another and have different iterations in what we've got to. So we're reviewing all of them again because we never did a retro even for the War for Planet of the Apes, like what is it? Rise and Dawn. And Taylor, did you end up being on the third review or no? I thought there was something wonky. Was it just Briggs and Dylan?
War? No, Briggs didn't do it. It was just me and Dylan.
Just you and Dylan. Okay, so
Yeah.
Taylor can decide to join or not. I think you already said you would. It's been a long time, but we're gonna review that one too because Kirk and I haven't been on that, and plus it's past the 5-year rule. So yeah, we're going to review every single Planet of the Apes leading up to the new one. So please be good because that's gonna be a big bummer if it's not. But
It'll be a good. We're in for the ride, Travis. We're not there for the destination.
Exactly. I'm excited for the rankings of this too. Like it's gonna be a good time. But yeah, we're going all the way back to the original, the classic, the 1968 Planet of the Apes, starring the great Charlton Heston, who we had a fun night last night playing COD, and I was working on some impressions. I said to Emily, the problem with my impression, it sometimes slips between that and my Connery. Like I get too
Yes.
British, but it's tough. They had that same general like no fucks given, like, oh, come here.
I don't even
Zero.
know what you would call it. There's just like something in their mouth that they're like talking through. It feels.
I would
don't
say
know.
60s alpha. That's what I'd call it. Like it's just like think they're top men of the chain, Like why you want to
That's a
go
good
there?
one.
I don't got a good goddamn reason why we're going there. Okay, Charlton, go. But yeah, so this obviously was a book, so you go read that. Now Disney owns it. There's comic books. There's tons of things, and I'll talk about in trivia about it being a book because I guess my one note is Charlton Heston actually did not like the book, but he did it because he's like, it might make a good movie. But he read it and was like, this is shit. Again, alpha
In his
male,
Charlton voice.
yeah, this is shit. Anyway, so Kirkland, also we're going to talk about this first film, but what is your first memories of Planet of the Apes overall? Because like we just said, 68, that's a franchise sprawling like almost, because what's that? That's so we round up to 70. We're getting into the 60, 70-year mark here of this this thing existing.
Crazy.
So when was the first time you were exposed to it? And then you can parlay your thoughts into if you've seen this film before, when you've seen it, then your thoughts now, just everything concerning Planet of the Apes right now.
Yeah, Planet of the Apes, like the franchise of a whole, is actually one of like the earliest core movie memories that I have. I remember being like really young, and like my dad had them on VHS,
Yeah.
and it just completely like blew my mind. I think I was also just like really young, so like that whole concept just really freaked me out. And watching it now, this doesn't feel like a horror movie, but I remember back in the day, this was like these movies just terrified me. It's probably like why I'm so scared of those what would you call them, like just like people putting on like the outfits to have like the animals. I feel like just like the monkey, like the monkey people just terrified me, but for some reason I just like stuck through, watched them. I think I've seen all of the originals. I don't know. My memory's kind of dicey on certain scenes that splice between the different films, but I've definitely
They were
seen the
going
Wahlberg
hard
one as well.
on the originals. Like, well, look, there's like 5 original. Like that's for something that's.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Because there's like this one. There's a second. Because there's what Beneath, and then there's Escape, and then there's Conquest, and then there's another one. So it's just like other than Star Wars, what's a franchise in the 60s, 70s that had like 5 to 6 sequels? In
Just
that
in the
time.
60s, 70s?
Yeah, like that started there. Like that wasn't a big thing back then. If like we're doing a sequel, other than
Yeah.
horror movies, I guess, right? Because horror movies they went ham and were like Halloween 1, Halloween 2, Friday 13th. But really, like maybe I'm wrong. I'll do a quick search after. But for this to come out and then every few years, like they got 5 sequels. This original one, I don't count
Yeah.
nowadays because nowadays it's all about IP and content. But back then, they produced 5, and there was a TV show in '74 as well that went for one
wow.
season, which is
Yeah.
the same plot of this movie, just like changing the characters' names. It's astronauts that land. Galen is in it, so you got that. But like, it's just like if you read the synopsis, it's just the synopsis for the movie one, and the actors look like they have a lot more makeup. They weren't doing like Charlton Heston, who's like looking dirty and sick. These guys look like they got some makeup. So yeah, they had 5 movies and a TV show, all in the 60s,
Yeah.
70s.
That's crazy. I feel like also just looking back on like that era, like this came out in 68,
68,
I
yeah.
think. And like, when did we go to the moon? 69? Like, this is crazy that this is actually like before.
Is that true? This happens before the moon landing?
I mean, you can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure the moon landing was in 69. So just thinking about that, like, man.
Yeah, you're right. What is it?
69?
Well, sorry. The first human-made object to touch the moon was in 59. But you mean like the first human to touch the moon?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
69. Apollo. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy, though, like,
their
looking back
mission-
on that.
Their mission July 16th to July 24th. Here you got fucking Taylor going on a mission for like thousands of years. Like, goddamn, what were they doing? No, and you're like, we're gonna talk about, but I feel like this movie in a few ways feels like really ahead of its time. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
too, but it feels way more current. Like, I guarantee if this was made today, people would call this movie woke. Like, there's so much stuff that it's like about like shit. This is still like.
Oh,
hitting on
yeah.
themes of today. It's so good.
100%. I was kind of leaning into more just talking about this specific movie, which I shouldn't. I should just talk about my overall experience. But yeah, so I really really love these movies though. I like it was probably one of the earlier sci-fi things that I'd seen, and like just looking it through the lens of whatever age. Like this is probably like 2000s, around that era when I actually saw this
Yeah.
for the first time. And yeah, it blew my mind, freaked me out. And then obviously coming back to it now, like I'm so excited to do this retro because just coming off this first one, I definitely think it aged extremely well, and just can't wait to break down certain things and certain like sci-fi concepts that it's so interesting, like the way they went with it in the 60s versus like sci-fi movies, specifically about space nowadays. It's just so interesting, like the differences that they kind of make. I feel like a lot of newer sci-fi movies aren't making some of the same moves that this old one did, and maybe that's just because we've actually been to space now and like we kind of know how different it is, but I don't know, it seems still very grounded and not over the top in a lot of ways. But yeah, I don't think I've seen all of them because you mentioned that there's 5 originals. That kind of surprised me. I thought there was less than that. So like I said, I'm just excited to go through it and kind of see where my memory falters on what certain events happen. Because just watching this one, like there were so many things that I completely like. I did not remember the beginning of this movie at all. I thought they were like already on the planet when it happened. So yeah, no, I have some good core memories with Planet of the Apes, and yeah, no, except for the ride.
I'll go next because it sounds like my origin story. This is pretty identical to Kirkland's. Like it was around. I had seen these before the Tim Burton remake because I remember that was like the first real hype thing as a fan. Like this was around the time I wasn't getting much. I remember when the Scooby Doo movie came out and they did that fake trailer. I'm not sure if you guys ever saw the first trailer for Scooby Doo, but they made it look like it was a new Batman movie, but it wasn't. And then Goldmember
Like the
did
live action one? Is that what you're talking
yeah,
about?
the live
Oh,
action
wow.
one. It started like you need a hero, and it's like in a manor, and there's like a shadow. It kind of looks like Batman. Then when they zoom zooming in at Scooby Doo. I was like, fuck. And then I remember in Goldmember, they did a fake trailer for a Bond one. And it was Austin Powers going on. So this is an era where it's like some franchises weren't doing the greatest. There's stuff spaced between. So when I found out, hey, there's a new Planet of the Apes movie, I'd already seen the Apes movies at this point, but I was like, I was fucking pumped, and I loved that movie. Now, when we get to that retro, that's going to be a very exciting time because I feel much differently upon it now. But so I was hyped, and same thing. This was at my grandma's. She had like the same way. I think we've talked this before. Remember those Star Wars VHSs? I was like the Stormtrooper, Vader, and Yoda. Like
It's the same that I had, yeah.
Yeah, my grandma had something like that with Apes, like some sort of box set where it had all of them, and each one was like. You could probably find it's like a yellow cover, a green cover, a purple cover, and it was always like a different monkey. And that's where I just remember watching. And I think because probably when it came out, my grandparents at this point are probably like in their 50s and the 60s. Like this was probably a big deal, Planet of the Apes, right? And my grandma liked more this type of sci-fi stuff. And I always say, like, I think this and Star Wars were the two sci-fis that really got me into it. And I feel like Star Wars was like the adventure, like, oh, the hero story, the journey, where this was like the first, like, oh, this is like a, not to be like, there it is. Yeah, that's the one.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's core
Yeah.
memories, just looking at that.
Oh, yeah.
This is the one with the
Fucking
faces.
Fox, man. Fox was so good. Yeah, that's the one she had, because I remember that red cover like anything. But fucking 20th Century Fox, man, they had some great VHS covers back in the day. It was good. So, yeah, and I just remember just watching them all being introduced. And yeah, Star Wars to me introduced me to like the fun adventure sci-fi, and this was like the thinking man sci-fi, because there's a portion where they just, and I didn't get it all when I was a kid. I'm not saying like I was sitting there like, oh, I understand racial politics now. No, it was just like it was a movie that had long amounts of talking, but I wasn't bored, and that was probably new around that age where it's like, okay, I'm still kind of into this. Of course, I still like the action stuff, but no, that's my memories, is just watching at my grandma's. And then I, to the point, got like they made a Game Boy Advanced game of the first one. Ooh. And you're just playing as Taylor, just going through the deserts, and it's just like a side-scrolling him like punching. You jump on vines, you have to get like little health. Like it's probably a awful game when you actually look at it. It's just to cash in, but I got that. I had a bunch of the toys. I had a bunch of toys from the remake. So this was a huge franchise for me, and I still love it. It's still just like the overall concept. I think it feels very much to me like X-Men. I like X-Men, where this can go towards gender politics, sexual orientation politics, racial politics, any group that's felt marginalized. It's that flip of imagine, okay, what if, 'cause I can't remember, there's like some meme going around. I can't remember, or I think there's like a movie coming out right now where it's like the reverse, where like the majority of people are gay and being straight is like that's like a really taboo thing. And like, so this was the first movie that really, I think, I'm sure there's other ones, and I'm not a historian, I'm just a movie fan, but like in a grand scale in this way, and obviously the book as well, to touch upon that of like, because I don't know in the 60s if they could have got away with, let's do a movie or a book, like let's do a movie where it's just black people are the majority and white people are lesser than. Like that's where they use like the apes as like a disguise, be like, okay, this is going to be the allegory for race and a lot of other things, and no group should be lesser than, but that's where society looks upon it. And that's where it's like, it's this great cool concept at first of just like a planet with monkeys, holy shit. But then when you get to the whole franchise, there's always themes throughout, and it's just always interests me. So that's why I always hope the new ones and other ones, I feel like there's some that later on start to become more just the action and more like we got to fight the monkeys or fight the people. But at its core, I think there's always a message to this franchise. And yeah, I love this franchise. I'm very excited to break this all down, because it's just like there's some that I've seen them all, but the latter ones I haven't seen like a bunch of, except for the fourth. I love the fourth one, so I'm excited to talk about that. But yeah, I got a big soft spot for this franchise. I'm very happy that we're getting another one. I'm very happy that it's all on Disney Plus, so it's a nice easy watch for us all. So
you get this collection with the the monkey. That would have terrified me.
Let me full screen this. Oh, I remember getting previews for this. I didn't get that collection. No, I remember getting previews of this. I think one of my first purchases on DVD too was when they did like, I'll wait. I got a good story about the 2001 Planet of the Apes, because that was like one of the first movies that was on DVD, and I remember telling my dad like, this is why I need a DVD player, because like Planet of the Apes is on DVD. But this was like I feel like this was like a first. I don't own them all, but I own a DVD of this somewhere, the first one, because like I have to have this one. So that's my tale, at least with the origins of just Planet of the Apes. So Taylor, how were you introduced to Planet of the Apes? This is the first. Also, you watched the newer one, so I'm sure you had seen it at some point. So what's your tale with these monkeys?
It goes back to that box set. I got it in my garage, and I
That
should
same
actually
one?
pull it out. I got
The
the
colored
exact
one?
one. It's like
Yes.
mint condition, because it was my grandfather's, and when he had a huge VHS collection back in the day, and when he passed, just they were getting rid of stuff. I was like, I really want this box set, so I took it. and it's just absolutely. I'm gonna have to pull it out so we can have it on the show. But yeah, that's where it started for me. So when I watched that first one, it was just such a, I don't know. As a kid, it's just it's somehow very enticing, and just it keeps you engaged in a weird way. And I think even though it is an old film, we would have watched this probably in like mid 2000s, early 2000s, and
Yeah.
it's like there definitely are more modernized films and TV shows that a kid could watch at that point in time. But there's still something about Apes, and I feel like there's nothing else that really did anything like that at the time. Of course, then you get the Tim Burton one, which came out at some point there. But for me, my first engagement with this was that original. The other thing that really kind of, and I can't speak to it very, very well because I can't remember a lot of the details, but when the Patterson Gimlin footage came out with Bigfoot, that footage,
the fuck, where are we going?
I kid you not, that footage dropped in 1967, and so you have a comparison here because people are like, okay, who's building these costumes? And people looked at Planet of the Apes, and that's one of the best ape costume designs at that time. It's Planet of the Apes, and it's like, holy shit! So when that's again something that fueled my exploration of this, because it's just, this is crazy to think about, but. Yeah, the franchise has just really interestingly changed, and I liked how we get this part 1 to part 5 story, and it just involves some very interesting elements that I did not expect when I was going through it the first time. And then you have that Tim Burton one, which I'd love to see more of that, but that'll never happen.
Really? Okay. Oh, just because the ending. Just because the ending. That's why.
Ending, yeah.
That is, it is a hype ending. I can't wait to get to that movie. It's
such a hype ending. And then you get a remakes, which they are definitely remakes.
They're debatable, right? Because some people debate if they're just prequels, because they could be before.
They totally act as a prequel. They really, really do, and they fit. They leave those little. We'll talk about that. They leave little Easter eggs that nod towards the events in this 5-part arc that we're retroing right now.
And it's weird. Like, we'll get to, but even some people argue that 3, 4, and 5 of this series is a prequel to the 1 and 2, if the way you look at it, right?
I totally agree. Like, it totally fits.
Yeah, it's a crazy multiverse time travel sort of thing, but
it is. So we'll see how that goes. I do feel like at its core, racism is definitely one of the plot devices in this, and I feel like for me the main thing is just humans. Humans are the problem, no matter which way you spin it.
Yeah.
And it's evident in the next one. It's evident especially in that like remake spin-off, like the newer trilogy. Like that trilogy is those films just make me tear up hard. Like they hit hard. And it's not many other franchises can really do that. And it's just because it makes you realize, like, man, humans are just shit. Fuck being a human. But humans have the capacity to be really, really good. But the odds are it's like one human for like 7 billion,
Okay, the odds can't be that bad.
Yeah,
I'm going to try and be... I'm the most pessimistic person on the podcast.
Those are the odds.
Saying 1 in 7 billion, and there's 8 billion people in the world, isn't there? So, like, man, it's a lot of bad people.
How many people?
Is it 8 billion now, or is it 7 billion people now? What is it?
I don't think we're at 8.
7.88 billion. So there's 800,000 good people. I'm kidding.
I don't like those odds.
We're 3 of them.
No, I'll redact that. I'll redact that statement. I'll say like there's at least in that movie setting, you get like only like a couple good humans and just so many bad ones. And that to me is what Planet of the Apes is about. Just humanity is just so bad, and they really explore that in the second one, Beneath Planet of the Apes. But in this one, for now, like they really show this hopelessness, and for me, that's probably one of the reasons why I was always so attracted to this film, because when you watch it, it's just like, man, well, yeah, you watch it, you just feel like, man, there's just you get stuck in these situations where Taylor is just caught up in moments, and it's like, man, like you can't do anything, you can't get out of this scenario, and when you finally do something to break free from this mold, and you can like maybe not capitalize on being lucky here all of a sudden, but like you talk when you're not supposed to, and it's like, oh, well, we're gonna pick your brain apart. It's like, well, fuck. Or a big piece of evidence you have is your spacesuits, and these fucking human people, whatever, like just, I don't know, they steal your suit, and now you're wearing garb, and it's like, well, now no one's gonna believe
and now you're wearing a plastic boat. Yeah. That's my favorite thing. Like, what's his goddamn name? I'm pulling IMDb because I never remember the side character's name with him as much. But yeah, he ends up just wearing the I kind of forgot about that. So
Landon?
not Landon, no.
Dodge.
Dodge, yeah, I forgot about some. I'm watching, like, is he just wearing the boat? It's like, yeah, he is, just a deflated boat. It's like a human, whatever, poncho.
I definitely know exactly where I have a few from this 5-parter. I know exactly where I would put some over the others because some are, to me, are very clearly up there over other ones, but
and some are clearly at the bottom in my
some are
opinion.
clearly at the bottom, which will be very interesting to talk about. But
yeah,
no, it's incredible. It really is incredible, and this is such a like a foundation sci-fi film, and it has some great reveals that it's just like, holy shit, like especially at the end of this movie, you're like,
Oh,
God
man.
damn.
Yeah.
This must have been great in the 60s, man. This movie must have been a fucking trip. When you know, like, you're probably barely seeing trailers. I'm not even sure what they would have revealed, because I know nowadays all the posters and DVD covers are always like Taylor and the fucking Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Like, it's always that. But I wonder if they did. I don't know if they did, but
I watched the trailer. Like nothing referencing that was in the trailer. Just
Fuck, man,
hopelessness.
that must have been wild.
Yeah.
It's still, like, I know we're jumping to the big end, but when you talk about, because we always talk about, like, oh, the ending of Saw or like I Am Your Father, this is a top 3 twist still. Because, like, obviously, maybe, I'm not sure, do you guys know it beforehand or not? Like, when you
Like, what do
watch,
you
like,
mean?
going in, like the very end with the Empire State Building, everything.
Like
Like,
recently,
did you know that
or
it
the
was
first
Earth?
time I watched
The first
it?
time, did you know it was Earth?
Definitely not. And that,
Yeah.
like, again, that was like such a core hit moment. Like, I feel like there's so much dialogue and like deep messages in this movie that completely went over my head because I was just way too young to pick it up. But that end, it just like shook me. I feel like I had nightmares about that. Just like, oh my god, apes are gonna take over Earth one day.
Oh my god. Yeah, because I feel like when I was that age, I didn't know the iconography of, like, the Statue of Liberty meaning. Like, because I think even if I saw it on a poster, I wouldn't have known. Oh, that means it's Earth. But at the end, it's just like, and that's what I imagine. Like, geez Louise, like that's. But like I said, that's a top 3 twist.
Yeah.
Like it's been so long ago, maybe people forget about. But like that's such a great, because it's one of those twists where it makes sense and all the signs are there the whole movie, and they do such a good way of setting it up to make you kind of think that it could be there, could be not. But it's not one of these twists where it's like look at Shyamalan. We have that both examples, right? Of sometimes it feels like there's a bunch there, and there's stuff that's just very random, like, oh, it's a twist. And I'm just using him as an example, but this is one that's completely earned, and then it makes the second viewing the movie even better. And it's just like a perfect end, perfect twist. It's my god.
Part of me was like wishing that I could have just experienced this for the first time again, like going through this retro, because yeah, like you said, like that is just the craziest moment. It reminded me, like, I think last year I watched the first Alien with a buddy of mine that had never seen it before and had no idea about the twist with the doctor there. And like when that scene happened, it just like blew his mind, and I totally would have had that same aspect going into this one,
Just
because
screaming.
yeah, starts attacking me, thinks I'm an android. But like, because yeah, there is little like seeds in the movie that you could maybe pick up, but I feel like there's just so many things going on that you wouldn't really go there, because you would just think that this is just another Earth-like planet, that maybe they actually just went through that again and had dolls. It's not actually Earth, but yeah, just because like you know that it's been thousands of years since you've left the planet if you're Taylor, but just to get that like confirmation that no, your entire planet is just gone and there's no remnants of any sort of humans. It's just these monkey people. So it's it's crazy.
I was gonna say, I think if I remember correctly, going to the archives of my memory banks here when I was little, I think I thought that maybe the statue came from Earth and somehow, like, I don't know, just
They shipped it a
they
statue
got
It's
it
a
over
spaceship.
space.
yeah, something like that. Because I didn't think I really comprehended that this was Earth. So
Crazy
Yeah.
cut to black too. Like it just goes credits. It's like,
No
oh,
sequel.
no happy ending.
There should have been no sequel. When we talk, in my opinion, there's other sequels that are good in concepts. The direct follow up for me is it's one of the most like biggest steep, like from a great movie to a sequel. It's like such a nosedive.
like,
Of, like
nosedive in the back half. I'd say the first part was
Yeah,
like
you're
very
right.
intriguing and I loved it. But yeah, it just fucking
We'll get
drops.
there.
we'll get there, but yeah, but with this movie, and that's where it's like, I think now that I'm older, I do a better job, because sometimes sequels come out like, oh, the original. This is something that I don't care how many they make; it doesn't really matter. They could make a worse Golden Geese contender movie, and it's never going to affect this first one. Like, even though Heston comes back for the sequel, I really just keep this as like a secluded thing by itself, like this adventure. And I think that just speaks to the quality of it. And the other ones, sometimes some of them feel a little more cash grabby and stuff. But because I was going to look, I didn't even look at how much it made. So I'm sure it made a big amount of money. But I think that's when they're talking about as far as like the twist. At the beginning of the movie, they're of course looking like what planet they are on and stuff, but that's only for like the first 20 minutes. After that's like they get kidnapped, they get separated, they get put in these scenarios. Taylor's on a trial for his life, so it's like he doesn't really get time to think about where is he or put those together. Maybe near the end, once you start finding like the glasses and the teeth, but like Kirkland said, it could just be, oh, this is an Earth that or a planet that went through something similar, right? And it all changed. But that's where I like that they, before questions can really get asked, that they find the people there, right? And they're all kind of like caveman and fucking George Taylor, a classic, I think, like gray area character who like he's your hero, but he's kind of a piece of shit. Like he makes this line about I can't remember if her name was actually Stephanie because we were joking about it last night. But
I think it was Stuart. Like
Stuart,
that was
yeah.
her last name.
He pretty much just says like she was set there to be our Eve so we could all have our way with her. He wasn't implying sexual assault, but he was just implying that they're all just going to screw her and then just make like chill, like, and he just says it so kind of coldly, and he does that all the time. So when he's doing, like, when they're find these people, one of the first times, like, oh, in 6 days we'll be the ruler of this planet, like he's just so arrogant about things. But that's where it's great that the second they find these people, they're there for like a minute seeing how they react, and then you get the horn. So it's like you don't even get time to process what's going on because you get the apes right away. My mind wouldn't be thinking about if this is Earth or not if I see an ape riding a horse that fucking speaks. Like your mind is like shot. He gets shot in the neck. Like there's so much stuff going on that I think they do a good job of. Right when you might think, you might in the middle start thinking, is this Earth? What's the deal? Like Kirkland said, they're throwing so much at you in a good way. It's almost at the back after you're like, oh shit, yeah, what was this plan? And they're like, oh fuck, it's Earth. That sucks. And then it all makes sense. So that's the thing I say about this. For me, the biggest thing is the pacing of this movie is really good. It does feel like the classic, like a literal first act, second act, third act. The first act is just the, okay, we've landed, what's going on? The second act is being kidnapped, tortured, and then the third act is escape. And I think they pace all really well, even to the point when they have that trial going on. And that's what I mean, that I feel like as a kid, I probably shouldn't have liked this movie when there's like 15 minutes of just talking to Taylor, like, and he's like spelling things out, or they're on trial if he's a man or a misfit or a missing link. But I guess it worked for me back then, and it still works for me now. It slows it down, but in to me, the right amount of, okay, we get to see their politics and how they work. That's why I enjoy that it's not just a half an hour of him shooting animals. You get that. You get him trying to escape, but I like that there is slowdowns and there's time to learn because you get to meet these other apes too that are good, or other monkeys that are good, and chimpanzees. So that's why I love the dichotomy of seeing it all, and I just enjoy the pacing of it. That's what I'll just primarily say. So
that was like the biggest shocker, I think, for me rewatching this, because although I have seen it, it's been a very long time, and all like the politicking completely went over my head back in the day. But
yeah.
Maybe it's also just pulling from my memory of like Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where that one's a lot more of like an action movie when it gets popping off. It has those scenes
act
for
is
sure.
Like huge attack on San Francisco. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I was kind of had that in the back of my mind, so I was expecting more action. But when they act, like when he gets captured, like just the dialogue between what was her name, Zyra, and her husband, and just like how like humane, I guess they're coming from it. I just really assumed that the apes were just the enemy, and like they were just going to be extremely vicious, all of them, in regards to Taylor and his crew. So that was a big surprise for me, and just their like dialogue amongst each other, like they're like playing around. I love just the flip too, like when they first capture the humans, and they're like taking selfies in front of it. It's like, oh my god, like this is actually crazy, like the total flip of putting humans in the cage versus, and that like right away, like that's pretty early on in the movie when they get captured, like maybe first half hour, and I was just like, oh man, I am in for a special ride, and not just for this movie but going forward. So that was really, really fun. Travis, I have the budget and box office. This just says the Times. Hey, budget was 5.8 million and box office was 33.3 million.
Which back then for inflation was probably massive.
Oh yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah, that was probably
even just the
huge
difference, like their budget versus box office. That's insane. But just looking at like what that is nowadays, it's like it's bare minimum $100 million budget. And it looks worse than what this movie was. Like I was very impressed with the practical, just everything.
this is $5 million, one of the most important movies of all time. And obviously, again, for inflation, it probably means more. But
Yeah.
well, and that like I was going to talk about that too. But when you're talking about, we talk about themes, when you talk about that flip of when they take the picture at the people, like even stuff like today with people with hunting and like if you should do it, if you should not, game hunting and stuff. When you get to see whatever side you feel on, when you get to see the imagery flipped of these apes like standing with the humans, you're like, fuck, man, like that's an image right there. Even like like I said, to be like the near 70s to have that kind of cooking and going on, and that's still a debate that goes this way. And yeah, as far as budget wise, I think like even for like nowadays look great, but for 68 it looks fantastic. There's nothing really that stands out. There's some stuff like when like Taylor's in the ship and like the windows are looking really like, okay, none of this is happening. This is just, I don't know what it is, but it looks old, but in that great way where it just looks like a fine wine, where it's like, man, this looks great. It reminds me a lot when we do Indiana Jones, where it's like, I just wish more movies looked like this now. Like, and of course nowadays you probably couldn't do the monkeys with the makeup, even though I even think as the problems I had with the Burn one, the makeup was not the problem. Like I still think you could get away with it, but I get why, you know, people saw Gollum and said like, look what we can do, you know. But all the stuff like for the times, man, this movie looks great. Like they shot a lot of that outside stuff in Arizona, all that hiking, the rocks and sand. Like I said to Emma, like the whole first 20 minutes of the movie is just like a smorgasbord. Like I love all the shots of the different mountains and lakes, and yeah, absolutely love it. So
Yeah, so 5.8 million would have been worth like 51 million roughly. Which like
what was the
still,
38?
that's
What's the
pretty
38
crazy.
then? What were they made then?
Let me
And yeah,
just
55
look
today, that's like a modest, like that's like a almost independent movie at times, you know. So where do you want to go next, Taylor? You want to talk about Taylor? How do you feel about George Taylor, our main character here, the great Charlton Heston?
He just
Give me my cigar, bitch.
I feel like he just really he doesn't crack until like the very end, I feel like, but he's just
He cracks a couple times when they're hosing him down. He's on the verge of losing it.
That's
This is
true.
a
That when he finds out
madhouse.
they
He's just
A
screaming,
madhouse.
and the ace is like, he's just like laughing at him.
when he figures out they lobotomized
Shut up, you
his friend
freak.
too, his co-pilot, that's pretty bad. But
Bloody bad
yeah,
poo.
for the most part, he just takes it in stride, I feel like, and he's just he is a macho man about a lot of this.
Oh, yeah.
like through and through. But yeah, he's just ever since like he loses his voice, you know, getting shot in the throat, which fucking sucks to begin with, and everything he's trying
Great
to
recovery
do,
though. He got shot in the
Great
throat.
recovery. Holy
Two
shit.
days later, he has full use of his voice. Like, I guess I always take it like raised him. There is one shot when they throw him in the cage and they zoom in on his wound, and there's not it's just like like paint blood. I'm like, don't zoom in
Yeah.
there. Come on, like get away. But I just take it as that, like I had Ken. Okay, it just like grazed him and it like hurt. But yeah, he like if you just get like, because when they shoot him, they don't make it look that way. They shoot him and Hess like grabs his throat like, and there's so
It's
much
like, oh,
blood.
he's
It's like
dead. They just
yeah,
killed
they
him.
impaled him with that bullet. But
Especially
no.
where it hit too.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, we're killing off our main guy.
Or George Taylor's just that much of a badass. He like just sat there and like healed in a cage for days, like
Like on
I'm
Wolverine.
back. Yeah.
So
But they-
I'm
go
gonna jump
ahead.
in here. 293.4 would have been the box office million.
Okay.
So
And I
that's,
guarantee, and also, yeah, that's inflation. And I guarantee you too, the reverse inflation nowadays of how much tickets cost even more too. It's like,
Yeah.
because you think tickets back then are probably, you know, $5-6, where now it's like, you want to see this movie, 20, you want to
Yeah,
see Taylor Swift
no,
sing,
exactly.
$50, you know? Like, so yeah, nowadays it's because it's like one of those like Gone with the Wind's been passed a bunch, but it's like, if you look at the actual tickets sold, it's like the biggest movie of all time just because the way it was. So no, that's like 3 times your budget rate, because you said it was 25 or what was it?
50 would have been like the budget.
No. So what was the box office?
I just closed it. 294 or something like that.
Okay, that's like almost,
Yeah.
that's like 4 or 5 times your budget. So that's no wonder why they made 4 sequels in a TV show. You know?
Yeah,
In the
exactly.
60s, like, yes, I'll come back for 2. Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
laughs at his check.
I hate this book.
I do think though that the ability to create this relationship between Taylor, Cornelius, and Zira was really, really interesting. I liked how that kind of unfolded, and everything that Taylor was going through, it just makes me get agitated and angry, because you're dealing with he would have been the orangutan, right? I think that's the religious prophetical leaders, the government guys, right?
Like the
And
main, you say like the main antagonist.
Yeah, that they're orangutans, I'm pretty sure, right? And then the
Yeah, they're
chimpanzees
orangutans,
are
like Dr.
yeah.
Zira.
Like Dr.
Yeah.
And the gorillas are the soldiers.
Zaius,
right?
is it? Oh no, yeah, Zira's the lady, and then Zyrus something. Whatever. I don't know.
Zaius.
So
Zaius, okay, yeah.
Taylor's most of his conversations with Zaius is just so stressful, and so even when we're in the cave at the Leanne, for example, and it's like, oh, this guy, just his glasses, just he's going through, and Nova's playing with that fucking doll thing, and Zaius just shits on everything he says about that, or just referencing the scrolls too. I'm kind of segueing to Zaius now, but he's a character that really bothers me a lot, just for how he speaks to his beliefs. But I
Zaius,
mean,
right?
it's Zaius.
Okay,
It's fair and it's justified because you have this society that's established for thousands of years, and they believe their own religious stuff and whatnot. And Zaius is like, no, this is our scrolls, scroll 13, whatever, all that stuff. And it's
And
like,
then 10 minutes later, he's like, I knew everything. He's like, I've been lying this entire time. But like, again, for religion, that plays into it, right? Whatever religion you're into, whatever you believe in, there is ways you can pitch it both X, Y, and Z. And I'm always, like I said, I'm not a religious person. I can't remember what the term is of like, I don't believe anything, but I don't disbelieve anything. It's agnostic. Yeah. It's just one of these things of like, I'll figure it out when I die and go from there. Let's hope there's not a God in hell, because I hope I'm making it through, but you never know, right? Because I always talk about this all the time, right? Where some people's God would be, this is X, Y, and Z, and they're very forgiving and whatnot. But then to some people, there's a God that believe that, hey, if you're gay, you're going right to hell. Or if you support people that are gay, you're going right to hell. That's where I go, hey, if this part of the Bible is completely true, then I'm going to hell. And that's where it's just like, you can, like, each religion and each kind of ideology, you can point holes or put towards stuff. And when people are questioned, obviously that can get very volatile. And I feel like that's Zaius right here. And he's also doing it because like he's carrying the back of a whole society. He's carrying the society on his back pretty much. And it's like, it's not, that's what I love about Zaius. It's like, it's not that he's even wrong, because he's just like, his whole point is he doesn't want people to believe men were a thing really to this extent, right? To be talking that they were the primitive primate. And the whole reason is not so much of like, I don't think that he feels like ape and man couldn't live together. He just knows like is worried what man could do to ape, and like that, and that's where it's like, for the way they pose it in this film, it's not that he's really on the wrong side, because what happens pretty much is the humans went to nuclear war and blew up the whole earth, right? And that kind of creates, obviously now there's been a few changes to the origins and stuff, but I feel like in this movie they're kind of insinuating that the whole world went to war, nukes happened, they created these monkeys that probably got something from it, and that's why humans couldn't speak. Like I said, the newer ones try to pose something different, like it's a sickness, but either way, how we got to this point was man-made. So why would Zaius want the men to rise up again, who like resulted in war? And again, this comes into it later, but the number one of the rules of the Planet of the Apes is ape doesn't kill ape, right? It doesn't matter what differences they have, you don't kill each other. Where men, that was not a thing. They went to war. So it's like, he is the antagonist, but at the same time, it's like, I can't almost not say he's right from his perspective, because he's just like protecting everybody, because they got a pretty good, it's like, okay, you can argue the slave part is bad with the people, they treat the humans like shit, but from their point of view, from them as apes and monkeys and chimpanzee, they got a pretty good outlook in society going on.
I think for me on this like most recent watch, and probably even just all my watches of this, it is still tough for me to like see him in the good light, because he is just so on his side. Like he's so close-minded. Like it's just the opposite of open-minded. Like it doesn't matter if they show him the evidence, he is just sticking to his script. And for me, that's just like, I hate that characteristic in people. So like to see it in him, or here in him, I get it. They have their comfort in like what they have here, but they're like calling innocent apes heretics because they're just like trying to follow science. And it seems like they have like a good scientific team, they study things, but they're still just like, no, it doesn't matter what the results say, this is the way it is. And but I mean, you make up good points. I just think on my like when I watched it now, I didn't see his side of it. It was just like, I don't know.
I was gonna say though, does he actually feel that way? Because I think he's just lying. That's how I don't think he actually believes in the science and the religion, or like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. I think he's just,
I don't think he does. I think he will defend it, because like you said, it's like their whole culture is founded on it, and if you lose that, that it all breaks apart. And that's something that's been displayed in other mediums too, like even in the Halo franchise, for example, the Covenant. Like you have this religious thing,
what a
and
jump.
when you have something kind of that can undo
beautiful,
it,
isn't it?
it can just break it all apart. And I like how you
What
explain
is
that,
this
Travis,
game?
because I think it's super shitty that they didn't just explain the
like my
whole
movie.
truth, because eventually when something like this does happen, a talking human, it just kind of defunks everything like that. So
And then they blow up the cave. Yeah, that's the way I take it, that he does believe the scientists and Heston and everything. I think he's
Yeah.
just lying to save face. I think the other people on the council aren't with him. I feel like, because that's why I like when they have that meeting, Taylor and him solely, he calls him Taylor and he's like, oh, thank you for calling me that, not that. Like they have like a weird that's what I love about it. They have a weird understanding and semi respect for another. Like almost Heston's character feels like he understands that he has to do this. He still thinks he's a piece of shit, but he's like, from his point of view, it's like, I get why you do this. But at the same time, Heston's pitch is really just let him go. He's not even trying to like like Cornelius and Zero, they're the ones that want to change the hierarchy, dig more. Heston just wants to get the fuck out of there. Like he does not like really like, he'll call them on their bullshit of like, well, this means man, and like we talked about, like why would a monkey create a talking doll, right? Doesn't make a talking human doll. That doesn't make much sense. So he kind of calls them out there. But like I said, he does reveal his card Zayas when he's like, oh, I've always known about man. So it's like, I picture Zayas like they were on some fucking early discovery with some other people, and he like killed those other apes just to like hide it. Like how long? Like, and that's the thing. Like how long has Zayas known about this? How many other people do know about it? And obviously they blow up that cave, and that's why I like that. And this one, not talking about the sequel, that's what I like. To me, the Forbidden Zone is, there's nothing dangerous about the Forbidden Zone. It's just more of this. It's more like human, you know, artifacts, studies, stuff that would prove them wrong. So that's why I love that they have these scary scarecrows and tell these stories about it. And when Cornelius says he's been there, it's like, what do you mean you've been there? I like that they pose as like a, you could die out there, versus it's probably not that. It's just more secrets would get unraveled. And again, it's such a good kind of shady society, almost like Illuminati of Planet of the Apes, that they have this thing that they're hiding from the rest of the community just so people can stay in line, do their day to day, live in their huts, get these slaves, and same thing. He's like, he has these scientists, but at the same time he's like limiting. He wants them to get good, but not too good, right? Because if they get too good, what's gonna happen? So.
Yeah, it seems, because like, what's their goal with the whole like biology? They just want to test their brains and
Yeah,
figure out...
they do mention some. I don't think they use the word surgery, but they do mention something like that when they're talking about brains and stuff. So I think the idea is to get like something to like do with to help with the brain, or to do something with the brain. And I don't know what their end goal is per se. Maybe, I guess, just to learn, maybe, right? Just to advance your technology.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's what we do,
because like
right?
Zyra's motivation is to try and figure out the missing link between what would
Yes.
have been the humans and the apes, which it sounds like Zaius is just trying to nip it in the butt, because he actually knows like what the case is, but he just like doesn't want that to happen. And then I guess my other question would be what's their purpose with the human slaves? Like, are they just like, are they working for them, or are they eating
think
them,
so,
or
right?
like what's going on?
Because we actually don't see that happen in the movie. Like, we see the slaves around, but we never see what they actually do. They kidnap them, and then we don't know why. I guess they kill some of the angry ones. But like when they have to bring out, oh god, what's his other friend's name who gets lobotomized?
Langdon
there?
or Landon?
Like, yeah, I think you're right. It's Landon. So like, they're around because they just call upon them, right? He's like, oh, well, let me see them and I'll point them out. But it's like, what were they doing? I just take it that they are just slaves. They would be like cleaning, cooking. Other movies get in that, or like some of the sequels. But I feel like that's what they are. They're just used as like cattle and stuff, just to do whatever they want. And because I want to bring up this point before I forget, Terry, you were talking about like Heston, when he can speak, when he can't speak. Again, for back in that generation, this is like a big allegory for, this is a thing that if you were black and people knew you could read or write, you were pretty much a dead person. Because they didn't want people to be advanced in a certain way that they'd get past. So that's where the same thing when Heston speaks. Obviously in this movie, it's like taken into a room, but still it's like, it's a good allegory for that, of of the second he speaks, he's under trial. They're pretty much talking about executing him. You know, like if he doesn't get at like there, and look at what they do. That's maybe the movie could have dug a bit more in that, but it didn't have time, which is fine. It's still like pretty much a perfect movie to me. It's like I guess they kind of gag him. I just wish he would have asked him a bit more about Landon of like, hey, why does he have this big chunk out of his head? Because they're like, no, like we've not seen anybody else could talk. Yeah, go find your friend. And it's like clearly he's been fucked up. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like Zero kind of understands that, but it's just like they didn't even hide it. They should have just killed him, really. But the fact that they like lobotomize him and put him out there of like, okay, well, what's gonna happen? And same thing, right? That's an allegory that he clearly probably was captured. He talked, and then right away they just. But again, who else knows? Because someone would have been told to lobotomize this guy, right?
Yeah.
So there's probably other apes that know or think something's up, right?
I guess the only difference there is like Taylor had Zyra to kind of protect him because she was very hands-on, but Landon just had this guy that was getting paid minimum wage. Probably he's like, whatever, let's just fucking lobotomize this guy.
But even then, like
Geld him first.
But that's what I mean. Like, would an ape just feel like, oh, it's a talk one? I feel like they would go to the high command, and they probably just got some order to take him out, right? But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, is there like a shift A of apes that know that we just bumped into a talking human and what the hell's going on?
There for sure is. I mean, the best place to talk is in public, like Taylor did. So
yeah, because then everyone knows about this talking man. Because they say he's been there for weeks after that, like for trial. They don't kill him right away. He's been in prison for weeks. And it's like, okay, so
yeah,
man,
it's just interesting. Like there's so many different moments in this movie when I kind of just try and it's funny because the whole idea of this is that it's flipping humans and apes, but I like just try and flip it again, like back to what it would have been. Like if you're Zaius and he does that one-on-one meeting with just like a monkey in that situation, like if Zaius is a human and you just bring in a monkey and he's just having a full-on conversation with the monkey, like I just think that would blow my mind if everything that you've actually interact with them, like you can't even domesticate these creatures because they're just like feral or whatever. And like, you're just having a full on conversation. He's like, he can read and write. Like to me, I feel like there's moments that just, it's like, why are they not tripping out as much as they should be? But then it makes sense that Zaius actually knows already that there was some humans there was a set of humans that actually had like dolls that could speak, like they have
at
artifacts.
one point they were the main primates. They were the top of the food chain at some point.
So I guess if we found that, if we found monkey dolls that like spoke, and like that would totally change our entire outlook on that. So there was a couple moments throughout the movie that I just kept doing that flip, which is kind of funny because the whole point of the movie is that it's flipped.
Kirkland's like, what would I do if I was talking to a chimpanzee fully, whatever? And I do like
lobotomize them.
First thing, oh, you want to play this game? But like, I do like that Zaius has a line where he believes that he knows man could speak in we're the top of the food chain. He believes there could be more out there, but I like that he does not believe that he's from a different, like, space. He does not believe in space travel. He's like, that's a
nobody
foolish
could even
thing.
fly. Like not even the concept of space travel, let alone just like flying on the air.
When he makes that plane, and I love Zaius throughout the whole movie is just fucking taking away everything Taylor makes. He takes the plane, he destroys it. When he looks at the writing, he's like I love he's just looking out for George Taylor to like make advances and like ruin them. He's like the best like bully around. Like fuck this
just
writing.
Cock blocking his ideas.
100%.
That plane crumple scene is fantastic. The what you're talking about, Kirkland, I think it's interesting because if you have Zaius who knows about humanity and knows about this history, but you have a human that all of a sudden is talking and not talking like hand off. Get hand off. They're like just talking like that, but like he full on speaks like he just picked up like get your paws off me, damn stick. Like he's perfectly pronunciating this.
He can write.
Okay, yeah,
he's correcting them, flew versus flown, and
exactly.
stuff.
And you're telling me that he's just been in this cage watching what the apes do and could just click and you could just do it. No, I feel like okay, if Zaius is still denying this, I feel like other apes should have been asking questions and figure out like okay, there's something going on here. But they're so like innocent minded. Like why would one ape be lying about all this backstory of our origin? Right? So we don't have to question it.
They don't really talk about the council what they think. Zaius just thinks that he's like from a tribe far away, right? So in his mind, there's just like a few other human people that could talk, and they've just never found them. But the rest of the council is kind of just they have really no idea to take it.
I think it's crazy. Like, yeah, it's one thing that he can like speak very well and like read and write and actually like just stare into your eyes and have a conversation. But like, he also just picks up on like their whole politicking, like the trial
Yes.
sequence. Like, he knows what's going on there. So I feel like for many of the apes at that table, that should have been a red flag. But who knows? Maybe they're just all in the same camp of like, whatever, we're just executing them anyways.
Well, and that's what I love, where when that trial starts, he's quiet, and when he goes to speak, he even opens up with like, "I don't know your way of life." Like, he is trying to tiptoe around them at first, like try to find common ground, and then in the end when they just keep trying to like to muzzle him or whatever, he's just losing, and then he's fucking throwing apes around in course. Okay, it's over for Taylor. He's not.
Yeah,
he's not making it
you
out
can't
of
get to that
this.
level when you're.
Yeah, your cock's out and you're fighting these monkeys. Like, you can't do this, man. Like,
That scene, he drops his trousers. Are all like, "Ooh, that's unfortunate." For
oh
him.
yeah, I credit to Heston. He's naked a lot in this movie. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like he's a guy that's confident as man, and that's how I could tell because Landon, when he was swimming, I don't know if you noticed, when he was swimming, the actor like kept like covering his junk. Not Heston, man. He was
No.
full on just like doing the big way.
Breaststroke.
Yeah, his cock was like breaststroking as well. Like, and we talked about last night. There's this great scene. I was saying this to these guys. I know, to Emily, but because I guess this was back in the day where movies didn't have ratings, so I don't know what it would have been rated this movie, but I still think it's like a PG-13 movie. There's no F's. There's no even breasts. That was a pitch originally that I have in the trivia, that originally it was written that all the women were going to be bare-breasted, but they're like
the monkey
let's-
women.
No, all the human women were just
Oh,
all
okay.
going to be naked, but they're like, let's not do that. Just like, let's even, back then, like, let's focus on this market. Let's widespread this.
Smart.
But, there's this point where, they go swimming, which is a great scene. It's so funny that they act like they haven't seen water in ever, but they literally just saw water like a day ago. But I get it. It's fine. Again, it's so funny. Hopefully you're listening to this like a year in advance. Some people have seen it. Between the hiking and that water, I'm like, man, we subliminally remade some things with our movie, because I was like, oh, some character acts the same way with water, Oh, fuck, he does. I didn't even think about that, because the character finds someone and later on finds a bottle. It's so funny, but so they go swimming and they go to shore, and I'm like, oh, why aren't there any more movies with like just men being naked? And they're on the beach, and it's just Heston standing there, and then both Dodge and Landon like bend down, and it's just their heads in frame, like right around Heston's cock, and there's like, look at this, Taylor, and like it's like the best like meant comedy I've seen in quite a long time. Like, it looked great, and Heston looks like he has that Ford body where he's just like naturally jacked and
Yeah.
like toned up and stuff, but.
That was another thing I loved like about his physique in the movie, though, is like it's not like he was just washboard abs and like
Yes.
looked like he was just getting a pump on for the last however many years that they were floating in space. Like, he did have a realistic, like, he had some fat in there that like he was kind of like, you can tell he wasn't doing a lot of working out in the ship, but like it looked very natural. But he had a good, nice core foundation. Like, there was some abs in there for sure, but it wasn't as ridiculous as some of these Hollywood
Oh,
bodies, like
He's still an astronaut,
Kamal
dude.
in Eternals. He wasn't looking like that.
Yeah. Heston, we need you to get to the gym 6 days a week, eat this chicken.
Gotta take these steroids.
Yeah, fuck you. I'm just gonna make some money. Pay me, bitch. But anyway, so where were Kurt, you go, because Taylor started on Taylor, and then we went all. What do you think about George Taylor as our antagonist? Or did
Last
you
thing
have something to say?
last thing I'll
Yeah,
throw
what?
on before the George Taylor thing, with that scene when they find the water. Yeah, I found it hilarious that it was like the first time they've seen water. But I found it even crazier that they find these like scarecrow type things, and they're like, whatever, let's just go for a
Yeah.
fucking dip and drop all of our clothes.
Nothing
There's just-
scares me.
You're on like a foreign planet. I'm like, that would be the last thing I do, but I digress. I've seen a lot of sci-fi, which these guys probably haven't seen. So.
Well, even before we get to Taylor 2 in a second, because like one, again, I love classic Heston. He finds that shower and he's like, oh, like it's just like the greatest shower he's ever had in his life. It's fantastic. But like, I know hundreds of movies do this, but I looked over at Emily like, imagine if you were an astronaut and you fucking crash landed on a planet and your ship was just gone. Like, for a while, it's just like, it could just be, and because I assume, I don't know, because they say they have 3 days worth. We don't know how many. I don't think, did they ever show a night cycle?
I don't think
When
they
they're
do.
hiking? No, so I think they're insinuating like it's been 1 day, but even then it's like it's 1 day, 24 hours. Actually, who knows how it works there, right? Because there's fucking lightning randomly in the goddamn desert with no rain or anything. So obviously the fucking nuclear bombs have messed some terrain up, but they can breathe fine. But just imagine that, like that idea
Yeah.
that if we were to crash land somewhere, us three, and it's like if it's just us, no, like nothing else. Like, because for a while there's nothing. There's just
And the only
rock.
girl Who's killed in her sleep.
Yeah, looking mummified. Like it's just like.
Yeah.
And I guess they literally do say we'd only have 3 days, we'd probably just die. But just that realization of man, like, and we haven't talked about it. And we were talking about this considering with our movie because I screen it for these guys and I show them a version with the score. A huge shout out to Jerry Goldsmith because that first half an hour is pure score. You take the score out of this movie you could risk it being boring at times where they're just because they're walking for a long time, and it made me happy where I was like, okay, yeah, I feel like we're doing the right thing, adding some music here because sometimes like, oh, do you need it? Well, take you out, but it's just like. One, just the type of music, like it's such a weird score. The sounds Jerry's making, and he's done many, many great tracks. But like, just everything when they're hiking, it just is that combination of mysterious and creepy. But nothing's creepy. Like it's just rocks and stuff. But you're making it feel like something is fucking off with this planet. So first half an hour, the MVP is Jerry Goldsmith in the score because he has to carry this movie. And second of all, that fucking Apes theme, my God. I fucking love that. It's like shout out to him because, like I said, for the first half of the movie, I think like if the score sucks, this movie is definitely not as good as it is now because like there's so much no dialogue for a while. You know, it's just these guys, as we talked about in our film, these guys like for 20 minutes just hiking, looking at stuff, scenery. But the score is just it's like haunting. It's so damn good, man. Oh.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just sets like the tone and all that jazz. I was gonna mention, just when they crash land there, and I feel like this is just something because I've experienced so many like sci-fi movies or maybe like survival type games in this aspect of like you land on a planet, your ship's gone, you got 3 days to live. It's like go and like just it like that just how it started right there just kind of blew my mind on like where their psyche was at because I feel like right then and there it's like holy fuck like we are all gonna die on this planet. It's like
Taylor
probability,
well.
probability like we're all gonna die in 3 days. Like there's no way that we're gonna find food, water, shelter, all the like society. Like just the odds of that happening are so slim. It just blew my mind how like it was kind of tripping me out too because like Taylor's psyche, he seems like a fucking wacko at the start of this movie. It's like
100%.
Why is he the captain on this mission? Like this guy, he's like laughing at Landon for like missing his family and like or like just hit like where he was at. You want to be the
like, immortal man, eh? You want to be the most important one. Now
it almost seemed
them all.
It almost seemed like Taylor was like the only one that knew that like they were never gonna go back to their like on their.
He knew they were
home
apes on the planet. He knew they were gonna crash.
He knew Nova was there. He scoped it out already.
I'm gonna have a woman, but like because he's just so matter of the fact of it. Because Dodge, you don't get too much from him. Dodge is all about the science. Like, and I feel like Landon definitely is a bit more worried, but you feel like with Dodge and Taylor that they are like not family men. And even then, like I don't even think Landon is because I said it was an arrogant line, but. Because we don't ever know what the mission is, right? It could just be exploration. But the way that when Taylor says that about she was supposed to be the Eve to our Adam, it sounds like they were supposed to find some planet and like bring life to it or something. Like why else? Us as a society, we're not sending any missions out there with a woman meant to just go reproduce, right?
No.
Now
you're doing the interstellar thing where you're just bringing like sperms.
So, and maybe that's
3
just
men, 1 woman. Like Jesus.
At least make it even. Yeah.
The odds aren't great for the baby production. Like you're gonna have to wait a while there, and that's why maybe it's just Taylor just being like a prick because he is a prick. He is like I do get it because I was watching this a little bit with Gwen and she had to ask me talk about when Heston Landon plants his flag and Heston with the loudest laugh you've ever heard in cinema. My God, and Heston with those huge ass teeth
and the zoom in too, like zooms on his face.
And again, you're like, this guy's not reliable. He's fucking like. But I think that's what I kind of like is. I feel like that's the reason he survives because he's kind of squirrely, like because he's kind of like a offset guy. That's why he can go like get through these waters somehow. Where the other two are almost too straightforward that they couldn't get like. They would die right away, and they did. You know, like Dodge got shot twice. Unfortunately, he got shot, and then his fucking statue gets shot later. Like fucking just the circle that is. Poor guy, and both times in the back of the neck. So he's just looking down from heaven, like man. And then Landon, like we said, he probably just spoke up way too fast when they had him, and it was over for him. But they're like, so he plants that flag, and that's why I love that. It's so interesting. I'm not saying I want a prequel movie. Don't do that. I just mean like with Dodge, he's so obsessed with science, and Landon talks about like it sounds like he was a bit of an ego guy and wanted to be like a Neil Armstrong, get all this publicity, but still he's there for the mission, right? Because he plants the flag, which is funny because like you said, Kirkham, this was before the moon landing when they do that. But I just love that Heston decides to laugh at this man because he knows they're not going back, and no one's ever heard this discovery, so he's just kind of like. He is a I guess he's a realist because I just feel like the second that ship crashes, he just accepts they're dead. You know, even with the idea of him saying, "Oh, we got 3 days," he has a cigar. He's laughing at the flag because he knows they're never being found. He just accepts that they are kind of fucked, but he's not doom and gloom about it. He's just like, "Well, I'm just gonna smoke my cigar, go for my naked showers, and enjoy what I can." And I think what I like about him as this character, and I think what it fits is one, Charlton Heston is like my favorite because of this movie and other things. He's my favorite like old school classic actor. I love him, the voice, everything. He's just such an aura about him. It's like the Nick Cage thing where it's like you can't teach anyone to be like Charlton Heston. He just has something about him where it's like he got it. But what I love is he to me is a mixture of like what the apes were talking about and what we talk about, where like not all men are bad and not all men are good. There's times where he says things that are crass. He's kind of an asshole, but he still means well. Like he doesn't have to try and save Nova, but he does. So that's where it's just like I think he's the perfect embodiment of what a man is, because if you just got a guy that's all goody two shoe, it's like, okay, yeah, all men are good. I'm fighting for like, but even Taylor himself, he's kind of like a gray area character. He's kind of a prick, you know, and like multiple times, like Zira's like, okay, we're going to do this. Don't do this. And then he's holding Zayas at gunpoint later when he like agreed not to do that. And he's literally like, I love that line. Tell them to send down horses, ammo, water. And then they go, or what? Or I'll shoot him. Like he's just like he's gonna execute Xeris in front of everybody. He's not even trying to be diplomatic. So that's why I think he's like a perfect representation for this movie to kind of get a human that's somewhat in the gray area that you like, but at the same time, I think everyone would acknowledge like he might be a piece of shit. You know, like you're rooting for him because he's man, but there's something off about him. And yeah, great job by Heston. Heston's just fucking phenomenal. I don't know how many more Heston retrospectives we're gonna do other than this, but I hope in the future we when we've gone through so much stuff, we do like Ben-Hur, like there's so much stuff. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the Taylor character, where you know that's a big issue with the Tim Burton remake. You know, you get Charlton Heston, and all of them thought, you know what, Mark Wahlberg, that's a good substitute to put versus Charlton Heston. You go, oh man, casting director missed the mark on that one. So
I'm excited to get there.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. Anything else on Taylor, or move somewhere else?
I took a quick look because I was curious about like what their mission was, and yeah, there is that mention of she was to be our Eve.
Yeah,
it seems like people like translated the novelization from Spanish and found that it was just they mentioned loosely the distance between I think Alpha Centauri and Betelgeuse, and so they're different distances, but it was purely just exploration. And there was a lot of mentions too, I think, from Taylor, where just to get away from like the men of this generation and whatever they were going to, it'd be like 700 years in the future or something like that. So
yeah, because he says at the beginning, right, the people that send us will all be dead, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So and he's like, it sounds like he hates these people. He's like, these assholes, I'll be gone by the time we get back. Like, I just want to know, like, what was the day-to-day life of George Taylor? You know,
he's just
like,
happy to be here. He's happy they crashed.
Like, what was his interactions? And that means if it was his exploration, he definitely was gonna fuck Stewart. Like, he had that completely in mind that was gonna happen. So.
He was trying to get in there. That's how they broke the glass.
Yeah, he's the first one to notice it.
Yeah. And that's such a great reveal, too. I love that sound, whatever they use. It's like the ship's crash. They're all like waking up. They got their hair and everything. And then they look at Stuart, and just like that, it's like it almost sounds like a kettle going off. And yeah, it's just like offsetting. Again, even the beginning, it's like ships crashing. You've lost a crewmate. Why? They like mummified. We know why, because they've been gone for so long. When they get outside, there's like nothing. It's just rocks. So what is this planet? So already in the first like 10 minutes of that landing, you're getting hit also with so much of like, what the hell is this place, you know?
And like their mission just is going to shit like right away. Like there's no like landing, getting your beacon ready. It's just like, hey, we have 3 days to survive. Let's just see what happens. And it's funny. I found actually watching this, there's a lot of comparisons to well, maybe not a lot. There were some good comparisons to Interstellar on just like what their mission even is. Like it sounded like when they were leaving, it was just the war was, or the world was at war. Like we're just going out to explore to find something better, and like it seems like it's a one-way trip, and like just the fact that they have like the similar effect of just how time works, like they, like right away, like first 1 minute of the movie, you know that it's been like thousands of years since they left,
and they've only been gone for 7 months.
Yeah, exactly. And like me watching that, I'm like, man, that's such a ahead of its time concept. Like I understand the math was there, that they already understood that, but like to actually show that in media, it seems totally ahead of its time. Because first time I watched Interstellar, I feel like that's where it really hit me of like what that would be like for space travel. But they already solved it.
When they're like 60s. An hour down there, it's like 10 years. Like, geez, you know. But and that's where like to go like with Interstellar, that's like they are pitched. You watch the movie, like go out there to find something that you can bring back to Earth to help, and really it's to like find they say to go find a new home, but really the reveal is that no, it's like Earth's just dead and you're just finding like a new population.
They have a Stewart with them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the one Stewart who has a boyfriend out there somewhere in space. Good idea. But with McConaughey, he gets brought there because he's the only guy that can do it, or the best, right? That's why his family. That's why I wonder with these 3 people, and even like Lan doesn't mention he has a family. We go, oh, why is George Taylor there? That's probably why, right? Of like, he has no family. Maybe people don't like him, but it's one of these things of like, he's a guy like it. Probably you didn't find too many people wanting to agree to do this mission, right? It's like you are going like your entire bloodline, everyone you know is going to be gone, and then some. Like your grandkids could be gone, you know. So it's just like he does strike me as the guy. He doesn't have much like bonds with people on Earth, so he'd go like, I'll do it. Like that's where I think he fits. And Dodge, he's all about science. We didn't know much about Stewart, and then like I said, Taylor kind of insinuates that Landon's doing it for like to be like a historical figure, and then he just rubs it in his face at the worst time, like you got your wish, Landon.
He even mentions though that like he's ready to die, so at least he accepted that point of the mission. You know,
I think you have to when you go on a mission for that wise, and then once your ship crashes, right when you're on this little boat and you're just in the water, it's like you got to accept you're dead. Like there's nothing. And this is what I was gonna ask. This is just a sci-fi thing, and because maybe they wouldn't tell us. Astronauts don't get given guns when they go to space, do they?
No.
Or is that something we wouldn't know?
There's
though?
No way.
Is there no way?
Like, I think
why would they need a gun in space?
Because what if you land on a planet and like this? Like what if the people on the moon? Do you think they didn't have a gun? Because like what if they land on the moon but what if there was fucking anything, like anything? How would you defend yourself?
Right off the hop, they would not let public people know about something.
That's what I mean, right? We would know
about
something.
I'm sure they would have guns, but they would know and they prepare them for that. But in our state of being and what we know, no. Anyone that goes to the ISS, anyone's going to space, they're not packing guns. They're packing food supplies and all that kind of thing. I think
bet they are if they're landing though, right?
If
like
they're
like landing on
again,
Mars, you got to have
not
something.
not public knowledge for sure. But I feel like they would, but it would be different. I feel like, and I'm pretty sure they did this in that Cloverfield movie where they was in space and they had a 3D printer and they just 3D printed like the gun and stuff like that. Didn't they do that in the movie?
Something. It's been a long time, but I just feel like you'd have to have some form of combat, right? Like, because I know we're being like more like what out there, and you wouldn't know, but we don't fucking know what's out there. So like, let's say they decide, hey, some people are gonna go land on Mars. You're gonna tell me you're gonna agree and not go on Mars with a weapon? Anything?
Hey, there you go. So apparently, apparently they did have guns. Actually, like it was part of like their survival kit. It
right?
was like a very like all-in-one sort of weapon.
And
that was no. I'm talking about like the Apollo mission.
Yeah.
Like it was an actual thing that they had in there.
Do you mean like the cosmonauts? Like the Russian?
Yeah,
astronauts?
the Russian.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, of course, Russians.
Yeah. They're ready for aliens.
We're gonna take over. I guarantee you, I'm with you that they have them. They just wouldn't tell us. But I would, because like I would have that question, even if you don't think it's like, what if we land on this planet? There's anything, even if it's not like intelligent life, like some sort of animal. Like we don't know what's fucking out there. There's galaxies and planets. Again, I think if anyone thinks we're just like the only species out there, only planets, like that's not like. I think you're living in fucking dreamland there. So it's like, if I was landing on a planet and you're telling me I gotta go plant the flag, I want something. Even if it's a fucking sword, like, I need something. So that was the first time I thought about that when he's like, we have a bullet with 20 pistols. Fuck. We have one bullet, 20 pistols.
New technology.
Yeah. No, when we have he says we have a pistol with 20 rounds, it's just like, that was the first time it clicked and I was like, Yeah, they must do that and not tell us, because if you were landing somewhere, I'd want something. I would not just want to be like, yeah, let's hope for the best, because
I feel like when Taylor sees like the gorillas, the guns and stuff, or at least if he got a look at the gun, he could deduce something like, you know what, this is, not like this is like a specific name brand 2,000 years later, but at least like you could look at the similarities. You're like,
Smith and West.
yeah,
Dr. Zayas is like my favorite. But the gun, we don't know what happens, right? Because the gun, the people they take their stuff and they, I guess, just lost it in the woods or corn, right? Because they don't talk about the gun, so they just got their stuff robbed.
Yeah,
Good.
that would have been an interesting part if they actually found it, right?
Hessen
Because it would have
just
been very different from their guns.
in the field, just dodge, Landon Hessen just shooting down all these fucking apes
Indiana
and everything.
Jones scene. Fucking. what does the guy say to the plane? Die.
Oh God. God, I can't remember. Yeah,
That's
boy,
Heston.
Holbrook.
Oh,
yeah.
you fucking savages!
yeah, that's Heston. You fucking savages.
You damn dirty sandwich! You damn dirty baboons!
Got a fucking MG42. Just murders all the gorillas.
And again, I was joking about this, but on a thing like with Taylor, like they kind of make his character like be like ape racist. Like I said, he like calls them baboons multiple times, like an insult, when clearly they're not baboons, but like that's the way Taylor is. He's just like, fuck these monkeys that got me locked up. Like I'm gonna get at them and stuff. But and again,
a
we
prerequisite for becoming an astronaut is knowing your monkey types.
I guess, right? He didn't know. He just knows baboons. They're all. I landed on the planet of baboons. They're like,
Planet
no.
of Baboons. That'd
They're
be a
like,
very
no,
different title.
that's a chimp. But yeah. And yeah, another great reveal. Also, we know he could speak, but that scene obviously is a classic, like Taylor's name. But it's just like, first of all, the chase scene is great. All through, again, that music, because I love to, like, they use this like suspense music, but it's also mixed in with like kind of monkey sounds, and that's great, because it's just like there's monkeys all around. But everything of when he's running through, I love that they have great reveal of Dodge when they have the Museum of Humans, and they like have this all there, so it's all the reflect, and they just show humans as like savages, like they're killing each other with rocks and stuff, which is like not too far from the history in some recommendations. But you got like the one chimpanzee with like their kid, and they're like taking the show and stuff. And yeah, when at the end when he's just trying to get everyone, they're throwing nets everywhere and just like, take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape, and just like everybody just shocked, and such a great moment, iconic.
I love that entire sequence, honestly, because like it just when he's going through the city, and in my mind I'm like, where the fuck is he gonna go? And if anybody sees him, he's so obvious like a human that's running around. But like from the apes' perspective, because they're just like regular people, like they're like terrified of seeing this like loose human like on the go. So that was a fun little take. And I love the Museum of Humans. I love how the scene ends, obviously, but I also just love when he like goes through that church and they're doing like the what would you call it? Just the like sermon or whatever.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because they're talking about man and ape and stuff. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and like their God and how it's like he's just so many parallels to like what would be said in like your own little classic Christian church. So I just loved how putting in light that like any type of society that's like cognizant of life, like I feel like they would actually have some sort of deity. Like you can even go back to look at just like the olden times of like the hunter-gatherers, like they had their little gods that they worship, because as soon as you think of like what we are, like you got to imagine, okay, what's out there and who put us here. So I just liked the similarities there. And I mean,
we should do better on originals on that, because there's so much to talk about with that sort of stuff, because that is fascinating. It's just like, is that because there's stuff out there that makes you believe, or is that just because as each generation as a society it's like that classic,
it's in our source code, our DNA source code.
Like no one wants to believe, like whatever your religion is, no one ever wants to believe that you just live, die, and then when you die it's lights out and that's it, because that's like the most scary thing to think about. Like that's it.
It's also like what's the point, right? Like that's the whole argument there,
right? And that's like and it's like what literally happens when you do die, because it's just like your mind's gone. That's why I feel like each society, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, people could agree, you almost have to. That's like almost like a hive mind that lots of people do. Like there has to be something else out there. And,
if we did that, I'd have to see if put an invite out to Ruben, because we've talked about that in Cryptic Clues so many times.
Oh,
and
no.
He's got a good like maybe a baseline to start on that topic.
He just has like he's a cart full of Bibles. He's like pushing through and everything. Chapter 2.
He's got scripture written on his chest like a tattoo.
Oh, the kids love this one. What else? What else we want to touch upon with this?
The character of Nova, it's kind of funny now just looking at her because like, especially if these are just like cave people. She's got like makeup on. Her
Yes,
hair's
first
like
thing Emily
fresh
said.
blowout. She's like the one standout of like all of these like cave people. She's just like looking fucking nice, and yeah, I found it pretty
And
funny.
Taylor's all over it. And you're like,
Oh yeah,
yes.
right away. And like Zyra's decision, like she doesn't even explain it. She just like, yeah, I brought you a gift. And then you find out like later on through the guards, like, yeah, she wants him to mate with him, and it just. Like, I don't think I really needed that character at all in this movie, like, looking back on it, because she really doesn't serve much other than just helping his sanity, because
She
he's
accidentally
horny.
teases the school. Oh yeah, they're always laying on each other in that cage, which I kind of like because they almost pose them as like lions. You know, like the way lions just lay on each other, like
for warmth, maybe too. They don't have blankets, so it's probably it makes
sure they
sense
keep getting
there.
sprayed down. Fuck, it's always cold in there.
No towels. Fucking
They just
fire
got this
hoses.
cloth. Yeah, they got this cloth and the hay.
There's a madhouse.
A fucking madhouse.
What are you doing in this situation? Let's say like we all crash, and then
Oh,
you
God.
see like me and Kirkland die, and then same question for you, Kirkland.
Oh.
Me and Travis die, and then you're in this cage, can't really talk, and then these monkeys just throw in a woman here. What,
Oh,
like,
I'm getting
you-
dirty. I think. Yeah, come on. I'm
Well-
slapping those cheeks.
No. First of all, the plan is to slap your guys' cheeks if you survive, you know? Second of all, no, first of all, I got lots of all here. The apes constantly talk about, and it could be because they're humans and apes, but they talk about how the humans fucking smell real bad. So it's like your idea might be to smell, like clap the cheeks, but it might.
Oh, it would be disgusting. It would be. But
actually,
like,
you'd be like, let's make
I'm
loud
planning on
noises so
dying
they
there
hose us
anyways.
down. That's what you'd be like. You'd be like, make the whole noises so they hose us
like-
down before, and you're like all clean.
that's a good point. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
get this spot. Get this spot.
Yeah, fuck you, baboon. Oh yeah.
That is a good point, but also like in this situation, like it's like my planet's 4,000 years dead, like or 2,000, whatever it was. Like everyone that I know is dead. I'm completely stuck here. I'm marooned. I have nothing else here. I'm captured. Like yeah, I'm gonna
think-
get some in. I'm probably
On
gonna
your
get some
terms
super
now.
diseases. I'm gonna get some super diseases. I'm sure.
I think where I'm coming from though is you think that, but I think you'd have to be in the situation because I think my issue with going forward with it is just like how much Nova might not be there. Like, is it that of like, is it you taking advantage? Now, clearly Nova is like interested, but it's just like they have like, can you consent? Like, I guess you'd have to wait. I personally would have to wait for Nova to make the first move. I could never make the first move. Like, if she just comes over and grabs the cock and like, then it's like, okay.
You might squish that thing right off though.
Sure, you're like sex, like,
Desperate.
but like no, like if there's some sort you pick up on something where it's like this is consensual, yes. Because if not, it just feels like she's a drunk girl from a bar, and you're like, yeah, she's like Nova, open mouth, like he's just like the way he's speaking to her, she doesn't know, which he does. Like he's trying to teach her, and that's why I think he is. The whole Offset is like a G.
teacher so he can get
No,
consent.
no, but I mean, on
We'll get
Taylor's
some more
behalf,
practice today, Nova.
no. On George Taylor's behalf to defend him, the whole movie is trying to teach her how to speak and do things, right?
Yeah.
He's not like, and I actually attribute the movie that I'm glad they didn't throw in some sex scene. I don't know about the book. They easily could have, because I think that's better. Like, I feel like he is trying to. He's with her and he like has some attraction to her, and like, do they even kiss? I don't think so, right? He kisses
Just him
Zira,
and
but
Zira.
yeah, like so that's where I kind of take it that route too, where he's like, of course, that's something that's maybe on his mind, but he does want her to evolve too. Like he's more interested in that, and that's what makes Taylor a very interesting character. Where you could just make him that he's just there to plow, but he's not. He's constantly trying to like Nova, and he's trying to say up, and like he's trying to communicate with her. So that's where for me, I would have to wait till she learns a bit more and get some sort, because the way they pose in this movie, they're fucking like, look, they are saying they are the equivalent to a lobotomized human. You know, like that's what they're saying. Landon can be lobotomized and look like he's with the rest of them. I personally couldn't get on with a lobotomized
Yeah.
person, so that's where I draw the
No.
line.
I mean, jokes aside, I feel like in reality, in
No,
reality here,
No, he's canceled. Put him on Front Street. Yeah. Speak
I
for
don't know
your
what you're doing
crimes.
here.
We got him.
In reality though, like if this is the case, if I go to a planet and like let's say this actually is Earth, like it is the exact same situation, and we have these like cave people that are like lobotomized humans. I feel like in reality they are going to be closer to like what Neanderthals are, which like
Yes.
they don't like they're super fucking bulky and muscular. Like I would be terrified to even go near them, let alone locked in a cage with Nova. Like there's a good chance that she just beats the shit out of me in there because she is like a wild animal, right?
Taylor's not fucking Nova. Nova's fucking him.
Yeah, like it could be that route, and then yeah, like I feel like it would be, although they are somewhat like a human. I just think it would be like a completely different species or like
Yes.
homo genus or whatever. So like I feel like the attraction would just not be there
I
like
agree.
at all. But and also like I feel like I have bigger things on my mind in that moment than just being horny in a cage. Like
Apes talk.
I am
Yeah.
about to die here. Yeah, like I'm starving. I'm getting hosed every 20 minutes by this fucking
That's
gorilla.
fair. If I'm getting hosed every 20 minutes, been shot in the neck, and apes can talk, I don't know if I can get hard. That's gonna be something because
No,
your mind's gonna be racing about these fucking monkeys. Any time I'd be about to do something, be like, fucking apes can talk.
Yeah, I think that would be another thing too that would just terrify me is them
Yes.
just like shit talking me in a cage, like hosing
And
me
they'd be
down,
watching
beating me
you
with
too,
a club.
Kirkland. They'd be watching you fuck Nova. Could you get it up? If
There's
you're
no
just
way.
this monkey.
No
like,
way.
Come
No.
on, Taylor, do it. Like, no,
Sold
it's
his hose.
just ready. Yeah, not inside. We don't want no mating yet. No. Anyways, on that route, I think that just feels like I'm not sure if she's in the book. That just feels like such a classic like movie scene where there's always like a female, like a love interest sort of protagonist. And you're right. Other than her accidentally squishing the doll, she doesn't do much. I think that's where I think the only thing she does is. Yes, he does kind of push backhand her once, so that's not great. It is for the stake of his life because he was spelling and she goes to fuck of all the shit. So I understand why he was mad in that moment, but I think that's the reason she's there is to show a softer side of him because most of the time he's a badass or a prick. And he is like, I think when he's talking with Zero nice, but I think this is later on in the movie when he's trying to teach her, it shows that there is a soft side to Taylor and he could be a good guy and he's trying to look out and he doesn't have to take her, right? Zero literally says, you're leaving her behind. And he says, I'm not going unless I have her. So I think that's the purpose she serves, at least just to show, okay, there is a good guy somewhere in there. So that's what I'd say. For the rest of the plot, not much, but just shows, okay, he's decent he's decent with women, I guess.
Yeah.
That always, I shouldn't say it cracks me up, but just when he's trying to like spell out stuff and when she gets fucking livid.
Credit to the other guy.
Idiot.
Credit to the other guy. He saw her push that woman and he's like, I'm gonna fight Taylor.
There's like a flying double kick on him too.
Yeah,
he's
was
ready to
fucking
go.
ready.
And that's what I mean though. Like I feel like that early subspecies of human, like we're soft and fleshy compared to, our ancestors where they just lived in the fucking
muscle,
wilderness.
bone.
All muscle, like just
Yeah.
fucking leather.
Cocks rock hard all the time.
24/7.
They're weapons. They're weapons. They're not used for pleasure.
They're
fucking
sharpened.
weapons. Yeah. They skull fucked you, right? But to take out
So
your
I think
eyes.
right then and there, like that other ape human is just gonna fucking kill me. Like with their fist, just beat the shit out of me. So
And he doesn't win that fight. He gets saved, right, from the other apes. They
does get
separate him.
saved.
So it's not like he wins the fight. He can outsmart. That's what I love when the apes are chasing at one point and he runs across that log to make the apes like fucking like hit the log with the net. That's what I like. Like the apes can't get him for a while because they're just like, why? Like this is my headcanon, but they're kind of like, why is he like moving like this? Like humans usually don't move. Like they just run straight, or he's like zigging and zagging. So.
yeah, I definitely too like getting back to his escape scene when initially I'm like, why are these apes like freaking out of him? But like you also got to think about that as well, that like they wouldn't be very like they're probably pretty soft compared to like what a regular ape would be, right? Because an ape's living in the wilderness and they're swinging on vines, whereas these ones like they probably got a dishwasher in their home. Like they probably pay taxes, all these things. Like they're very separated from the savage ape that we've known. So that's always an interesting concept, because although they look menacing with just their different face, I guess, and everything, but like no, they're
and like look
human.
like to your point, they're using horses to get around. They're using clubs and guns. They're not usually using their brute force and hoses. So it is the reverse, where okay, they are apes and they are a bit more maybe stronger in some facets, but they're not using those muscles. They're being like humans, right? So
yeah.
it's a good observation. Anything else before we do trivia? Any other points you want to shout there? I'll take a look at my notes.
I got one. You probably have it, but in case you don't, I have one thing of trivia that goes in hand with like the conversation we had prior with Nova and Taylor. So we'll see if you have it already, though.
Okay. The two things I have, just like I think we already talked about it. I love the line that Zero has when he's like, "I'm gonna kiss you now," and and she just goes, "But you're so damned ugly." Like I love, like it's such a great delivery by Kim Hunter. Like it's just I love that to them. Like these humans look disgusting. Like it's not even.
Yeah.
And even like when Cornelius is, I can't if it's hit. Who the little guy is that's Zero's brother, right? I think
That's her.
the little guy.
That's her like nephew or cousin.
Okay,
or
yeah.
something.
I
Big
love when
cousin.
he shaves and he just thinks he looks like so ugly. He's like, "Why would you do that?" And he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
where I'm from, some people consider this good looking." He's like, "You look quite foolish now." Like they just think he looks like an idiot without no hair. So, and shout out to Roddy McDowall. I love. Obviously, he pops up a lot in this franchise. We haven't really talked about the performances of all the apes are great. I love Zayas, love Zira. Cornelius, he's my favorite one. I love Cornelius so much. I'm happy to talk. Like I think we can tell about more when in the other movies because he's in a couple and then he reprises the role or he comes back as a different ape too, but just so great. That three together, really good. And I like that they have lines of like, they don't believe him on some things. They are stern, but they are still friendly and kind of with us. They're not just right away like, "Oh, we love you, human, and we're here with you to the end." Like they have shades too. Like all these characters are not just for like, I'd say, those two, Zayas, and then obviously you got Taylor. They're not just straightforward characters. All characters kind of have some gray around them. So I really like that.
Yeah.
But Cornelius is great.
Even like the president of the assembly, like he's not in it much, but like in that trial sequence, I just love all the acting of the actors beneath the mask and everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like they go the extra mile because like when they break away from that courtroom, like they're walking away, like they're trying to show like they're kind of walking like little monkey people. So I just great attention to detail from everyone, like the extras as well. I thought they did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
Just looking like monkey people, like they got the outfits on and everything. But I just felt like there was more to just how they looked to make me believe. And just I was very impressed honestly with all of, like the line delivery of every little character here and there. I don't know, like I don't watch much old movies like this, but it's pretty crazy to look at what it is now, and now we're just flooded with so much content that you can definitely kind of cheat and get behind with maybe some lesser performance or some filler character that no one's gonna really focus on this one. But I just think that there's so many extra moving pieces in this that just make it so much better and make it feel very believable. Even though this is a movie from the 1960s, it feels dated in some aspects of like what they can do with the technology, but it really does hold up. And it is crazy that it is, what do you say, 60, 70 years old now. So
Yeah.
just wild.
It's dated in that way where it's like, oh, it's dated because this is as much as they could do, not in the way where sometimes movies get made today and you're like, this feels dated. Like it feels like it should not be of this generation, right? In the worst ways possible. Where this feels like the peak of what they could do, and they did it really well. So. And the last note I had, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but I just really love at the end when they read about like the scripture of man, and they go down this whole thing of like Cornelius reads like, "Man will kill one another, man will doom us," and stuff. And I just love that line from Zayas. He's like, "And I've I'm paraphrasing, but pretty much just like through all my years, I've seen nothing that would dispute that." And it's great too because as Cornelius is reading that again, when you talk about today's stuff, it's like there's things in that scripture that hasn't changed. It still happens today, and you kind of think like that should have been a lesson that we should be in a better spot. Where it's like back then they weren't and we aren't anymore. So it's just like, and that's where the last part I was like, I think I'm on Zayas' side a bit here where it's like, you know what, they got a good thing going. Maybe just it's kind of like the Dark Knight thing, right? Of like you're living in a lie, but if the lie is better to live in, do you keep
Ignorance
living in
is
it?
bliss, right?
Well, right. It's the Matrix, same thing. So it's like, yeah, they could find more about man, but if these apes are doing their thing, it's like, why should they bend the knee? And same thing when they read the scripture, I'm like, they're not wrong about any of this stuff that man does to another, and it's a great speech. So yeah, good stuff there. And obviously, and I really love too when the fake out when Taylor pretends he gets shot. I'm like, "Cornelius, Sarah, help me. I'm dying." It's just like the most obvious, like, okay, this guy's not shot, but
It shows like Zayas. He's like, "Nice, yeah, we got him."
we fucking get another one down. They're not finding our secret, and then he gets fucking chokehold. But All right, let's do some trivia here for planes. Let me just pull it up here. So I would say, and like what Kirkland was talking about, I didn't put it all, but if you want to go to IMDb and read about the makeup, lots of stuff about the makeup and how the production was and stuff. So if you have interest, tons of stuff there, lots of facts. During breaks in the filming, actors made up as of groups of different apes and species tended to hang out together. Gorillas with gorillas, orangutans with orangutans, chimps with chimps. It wasn't required. It just naturally happened. So I'm not sure if it was like certain like makeup things or whatever, but that is kind of like a funny even study on set just to see that they kind of broke up and like, oh, you're a gorilla. Yeah, me too. At one of the first screenings, a woman walked up to Charlie Heston and asked how he was doing. Heston had no idea who the woman was. Until she revealed that she was Kim Hunter. He didn't recognize her because she'd not seen her without makeup. That was who played Zira. So he had no idea who she was. And then at a test screen, I just would love. Who are you? Leave me alone.
Fuck away from me. Yeah.
Fuck off. I'm Charlton Heston. I'm here for my premiere. Who are you? Oh, Zira. I would have loved to see an annoyed Charlton Heston. So, Charlton Heston was sick during much of the film with the flu. Rather than wait for him to get better, the producers felt that his hoarse voice added something to the character. According to Heston's diary, after filming the scene which Taylor and Nova were forcibly separated, he wrote that he was feeling like hell while shooting it because of his illness and felt even worse every time the damn fire hose hit me. So imagine you got this guy with the flu and like, hey, we're gonna shoot this high-powered hose at you, but you know what? What a champ! He went through with it, but yeah. So I guess he was sick through the majority of this filming, and they're right about the voice because it almost adds to that throat thing. But he just, again, great voice. Oh, fuck off! Notification. Don't you hate that when you go to click on something and a notification comes at that right moment, and then you click on it, it takes that.
Oh,
just,
so
just
annoying.
the fucking worst. Let's see. In the original script, the female. Yeah, I told you we're all bare-breasted, but they squashed that idea. Let's see. The producers of this film enlisted several journalists to play background apes. The idea of this was to get them to write about the film. So that was some nice early marketing on their part that, oh, well, if we get these reporters, they'll be writing about it. So
those reporters were working hard back in the day.
Oh, my God. To get a story, you got to dress up as a fucking ape and a chair for makeup hours? My God. John Chambers' outstanding makeup effects pioneered in this film were based on a technique he had used during World War II to give disfigured veterans a normal appearance. So think about that. This guy was helping World War II vets, like when they got back to look somewhat normal, decent, or just like feel better about themselves. And that's what you're getting on this movie, as a guy who worked on vets on this movie.
He's just making them look like monkeys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All the vets.
Put this mask on in the morning. You're just a fucking monkey. It's like, yeah, but half your face is back. Let's see. Chambers spent many hours watching apes in the Los Angeles zoo, studying their facial expressions to do this. So, oh boy. When Franklin J. Schaefer came on board, he was a director. One of his first acts was to reimagine the ape society. In the script he was given, the apes originally lived in a high-tech world. Schaefer wanted it to be more primitive, and this also helped reduce costs. Very happy that happened. I'm with you, Kareem, talking about like just the outside in their society and stuff. There would have been something less in me if they are all high-tech. Because like right away, that scene when he like creates a paper plane and they're like, what the fuck? Like, if it's high tech, I feel like they wouldn't react that way. They'd be like, we got planes. So I think this was the better route. Especially it makes sense of like, we got to a point in society, nuclear war happened, and then it gets reduced, and you're like building yourself back up. It wouldn't make sense that we're all at like a high tech. Like you literally, to me, would start the evolution chain again from the beginning, but instead of man rising up, it's monkeys. So I feel like they'd be the same way. Like we had cavemen and like the 1600s, 1800s. Like think about fucking like just even 1900 and what we can do now, the tech we have, right? So I like that it wasn't good call by the director. Good job, Schaefer. Good job.
Yeah, I feel like that would have had so many more plot holes in the fact that like his story of arriving there from space would have been a lot more believable because if they're high tech, they would have done that. And also, like you would have thought that if it's high tech, they could just like check his DNA and like confirm all these stories that he's saying, lie detector tests, like all these technological things that they could have used. So I'm very glad that it was not the case.
Yeah, let's see. Kim Hunter, who plays Zira, reportedly found it so claustrophobic that she would take Valium each morning while being made up as Zira. After a while, she didn't think she needed the pills anymore and went into the office one day without taking one. After the morning's makeup session, she thought she did fine, but her makeup artist threatened to find someone to replace him if she didn't start taking them again, as apparently he had become exhausted with wrestling her the whole time. So she's like, yeah, I didn't need it anymore. And the makeup artist like, I'm going to fucking quit. Yeah, I'm going to quit. I love that he's literally telling the director she needs to take Valium now. now. So there you go. They're taking fucking Valium just to, like, make sure this didn't happen. Let's see here. Oh, this is just like, I don't know why I threw this in, just like a fun trivia. Linda Harrison, who plays Nova, was having an affair with the producer Richard D. Zanuck at the time of the production in the year's film. After the film, Zanuck divorced his first wife and then married Hudson. The couple were married and had 2 children. So there you go. So someone was like a Nova on that set as well. And then the last 2, Charlton Heston was first exposed to Planet of the Apes. Oh, I told you this. He didn't like the book at all, but he thought it would make an interesting film, so he did it. And apparently, I don't know what they were. They didn't cite, so I have to look into it more. Maybe it's on a DVD. But there were 3 different endings, but this ending is the one that Heston wanted. And as you can see, like, Heston was from the very beginning. I don't think he has a producer credit on this, but it's very much like and Charles Heston, I'm not sure how much you guys know. He was a big deal back in days. So it's like if you got him, it's like you're gonna do what he says. And
I took that as the case because I feel like it's not normal these days in movies to just have like the big title for Planet of the Apes and then like the main actor like over top
Charlton
of it.
Heston,
like
Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, like I thought that was gonna be like the director or something when I first saw that. It's like Charlton Heston's Planet of the Apes, like that sort of deal. So right away I could understand the star power that he would have had. I mean, even just like the opening scene, we talked about his kind of alpha alpha 60s way that he spoke about it, but also like this movie is so much of him. Like it really isn't anyone else. I mean, a lot of people are wearing practical effects and they are doing good line deliveries, but he's doing it all. He's freaking out. He's going.
It's on his shoulders.
He's getting sprayed. Yeah.
It's not a one man show because, like you said, that'd be like disrespectful to other people. But it's just like you got to have a good lead, and like I think the movie still is great overall. But like with him as this character, it adds so much. And you know, I'm surprised that something like Tom Cruise doesn't do any actors nowadays. Like, how come we haven't got like a Tom Cruise and then in this movie, you know, like how come we haven't seen Tom Cruise Mission?
I think that's what the Mission Impossible is, though.
It is so, right? And that's the way Tom Cruise runs those movies. Sounds like that's how Heston was running this one. And to his credit, I don't know what those other 2 endings were, but this was, and I've never read the book. I've always actually wanted to, so maybe I'll find an audiobook. But whatever the other endings were, Heston, him saying we gotta go with this one was the right call because it's like the classic ending. I don't know if that was like him escaping. I don't know if it was the twist of the Statue of Liberty, but whatever it is, he chose right because the ending is like pitch perfect in my opinion. So. Taylor Phil, final thoughts and a rating for Charlton Heston's 1968 Planet of the Apes.
Well, my little note here too.
Oh, right,
I guess there was at one point it was decided that Nova was actually going to be pregnant, and that scenes were filmed around page locations. So I think some stuff from the book revealing that she was actually pregnant, and then the penultimate drafts of Planet of the Apes, Taylor was actually killed by the bullet of an ape sniper while Nova was pregnant with this child, and
that's probably one of those endings that he was like, "Let's not kill me." Let's say.
Well, that's just it. It's believed Heston rejected the idea of Nova's pregnancy. The scenes are deleted, but they're saying that the scenes there's a lot of footage of it actually out there somewhere.
Fuck, I gotta find that. Then I think that's a good call. That's to me that'd be something that. So again, we'll get to it next month. Heston is in the sequel, a very reduced role, but he's in there. That to me would be like a sequel thing to do of they're together and she's pregnant. You could do that too, but that's the other, when we talk about having sex with Nova, that'd be the other fear of mine. It's like I don't want to get anyone pregnant while I'm dealing with this stuff. Like that'd be a whole nother, just bringing a kid into this dynamic. Like no way, that's something. But that's interesting. Right call to cut it though. I think that would have been one too many plot lines going on, unless this movie like took place over a year, but it's like, I don't know, a couple days out of these people's lives. So I think it was smart. Good call. So
but yeah, overall, the film holds. It really does. It has aged in its own way, but it has a very unique quality to it that's very substantial, I would say. And it's just, if they did like a modern game or something like this, I feel like it has such a unique aesthetic that would really
kill for that.
jive. It'd be so nice, and I'd be there for it for sure. I think that the way they spun the story along after in the following sequels, while some moments are hit, some are missed, like I feel like this film at least does a great job at having its messaging conveyed and has its practicality and effects used, and it will stand the test of time for hopefully 2,000 years into the future. But yeah, I will happily revisit this film in the future. It's always something I'm definitely going to go to, and I'm going to be generous. I'm going to go 10 out of 10 because I really enjoy this film. I think it's a 60s film, and there's not a lot of films I can go back. It's like, yeah, I really love the 60s film. Like I'm not a super huge film buff guy who can pull a roster out and think, oh yeah, this is from the film from the 50s, this is from the 60s, I can go to that. But like, this is probably one of the earlier films that I've really actually engaged with. Well, there's a couple other ones, but they're later, like Jaws and Alien and stuff like that. This is definitely this is old school, and I'm very appreciative for its mark and its stamp on leading the way and paving the way for other different mediums and franchises to grow and everything. Well, this one is still getting content today. So very excited to talk about this.
I don't think that's I think you said a generous score. No, that's the score in my opinion. It should be. I'm the same thing. I'm a 10 out of 10. Love this movie. Like, yeah, it's aged, but it's aged like we said in the way where it's a movie from 1968. Like everything's gonna age, and the fact that it holds up this well, when we talk about when a movie can have storylines and ideologies that still hold up till today, one, maybe it's not a great thing for us as a society, but that shows how good the movie and the book and the content is, because, and even then it'd be done well for, even if we had all our problems, like, well, back then, right? That's where it was. So yeah, performances are great. Score's phenomenal. Great locations, the makeup, just like, yeah, it's just almost like flabbergasting that back then they made something so good. And I think that's why it has stood the test time. So yeah, I'm a 10. Definitely one of my favorite sci-fi movies, and if I had like a top 50 movies, it'd be in there. This kicked off. There's a lot of great movies in the series, but this is still the one I always return back to. As far as, man, I just love this movie. And yeah, someone make that game. Someone make that fucking. I'd love to RPG. You guess your ship crash lands, and you got to go out there and fuck, man.
Choose your character. You get to play as one of the three. Very different endings for
one of the three.
If you're going
not
Dodge,
one of the four.
Landon.
You plays a girl, shortest runtime ever. Just
credits roll within the first minute.
See, you could have your mission. Do you sleep with Nova or do you not? Like, there's a lot of things you could do. So, but yeah, get us that game.
It's like you have super AIDS now. You die.
Yeah, super strong but short lifespan.
Yeah, no, I agree. 10 out of 10 movie. I think that it completely holds up. It's honestly like a wine where it ages better, or it tastes better the more it ages, just because of, like, I think the sci-fi significance that this movie has, like all those concepts really hold up, as well as all the social things that it tackles. And just, I don't know, it's the type of movie that makes you think, and I feel like those are just really important movies to have. And the fact that it came out in 1968 but still has that significance, it speaks to how special it was. And it makes me so interested to like go back in time and watch this for the first time in 1968 and like where that was, like, just
give
like,
me a time machine, man. That's what I want to do. I don't want to go save that. I want to go sit down in a theater with an audience in 1968 and be like, whoa.
Yeah, and like I'm curious if just people hated this, like maybe it's just like, oh, this is so ridiculous, or what it is, or maybe they're just super intolerant of others.
What was the word for woke in 1968?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. So yeah, no, I love this movie. It's definitely I don't know what my list of favorite movies would be, but this is on there just for the significance of it. It's
top 100. It's in that list somewhere. You know?
Yeah, that's an easy statement.
Yeah. There you go. It's not, though. How many movies have we seen? Like, even just in our 8 years doing this, how many movies have we loved and whatnot, right? I don't think it's an easy statement nowadays.
I think it's an easy statement, though, just for like what it is. Yeah, like how good it is. There's certain movies that when I watch them, I'm like, this is easily in my top 100.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe if I put them on paper, it's like, oof, that list is filling up pretty quick.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll do that for our 10-year anniversary. That'd be a good cast. We did all of us did a top 100.
That'd be stressful though, because it's like, oh, I forgot about this movie. But I mean, I guess
we'll get a whole year
if
to
it's
think
your
about
top 100, you shouldn't be forgetting about it.
We'll start from the GV9 anniversary, give us a whole year, and like, what are your top 100 films? You know. Don't have to rank them just in alphabetical, but yeah.
Talk a little bit about every single one.
Maybe we won't do that. Maybe just you give us 10, you give us 10. Go check out our review, you know. Yeah, it's like a 10-hour cast. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back for the patrons next month, and then for the whoever's listening to this on public feed next week. I think next week is Beneath, right? That's the next one is Beneath, and
that's the next one, yeah.
I am very excited to talk about that because that is a fucking wild ass movie that, like I said, is like, man, you look at that first one and you go, how did we get from here to there? And I'm really excited. So I think it's going to be a good one. Tune into that. And we promise you that one will not be boring.
Bye.